Hello and good afternoon, and welcome everyone to this yet another beautiful session, Women in Technology. Why yet another? This is our second session in Women in Technology, and we hope to do many more in future as well. So let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Divyani Runwal Shah, and I am associated with Entrata from past 4 years now, and I'm serving in a capacity of senior TA executive here. So first of all, I would like to extend a big thank you to every one of our attendees who have taken out the precious time from their routine and are here to contribute in this beautiful conversation what we are going to have ahead of women in technology. So let me brief you about what this session is all about. So in this session, we will not only be talking about the women, the challenges what women face in technology world, but hello, am I audible? Okay, should I redo? Okay. All right. So I was talking about the session, what this is all about. So this session will not only give you an idea about what challenges women faces in the technology world, but we will be more be focusing upon the future of women as a leadership in technology. So women are leading all their way around in most of the domain. So we are here to encourage everyone to do and participate more in the leadership role in the technology. So, welcome again, everyone. I encourage all the attendees to keep themselves muted for this session. And just in case if you have any more questions for us, in any manner what we can help everyone, so you can ask the questions, and as well as you can share your questions in our chat box. So would like to brief more about the technology meetups that we do here. So we are doing technology sync up meets from past 5 years now. And we have done conducted overall like 15 such technology meetups. And all these topics are decided based upon the audience feedback what we receive and about the trending and current technology which is in the market right now. So yes, you can join our group in the meetup.com, Technology Meetup India, which is sponsored by Entrata. So as we are talking about women as leaders in technology world, I would like to introduce our chief speaker here for today. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce one of the best leaders at Entrata. She's stunningly talented and the beautiful soul that I have met till date. So please welcome our chief speaker, Emma Corbett, who is a senior talent acquisition manager at Entrata.
Divyani, thank you so much. What a great intro. Also, I just want to take a minute before I introduce myself to thank all of you for coming to this session and those of you that are going to watch it after it's been recorded. Thank you for taking the time, and I'm really excited to talk a little bit about my experience today. A quick introduction to myself. Personally, my name's Emma. I have been in talent acquisition in total, professionally, about 7 years, but actually was a university recruiter for an additional 4, so 11 years in recruiting total. I'm a pretty new manager, so I'm coming up on my second year in management. I have a pretty unique kind of career path that's brought me to Entrata and then back to Entrata, but main reason why I'm kind of here and why I am in talent acquisition is because I love the connections we're able to make with candidates. It's such an important part of what we do, as you know, Divyani, being in your role. But finding a job can be emotional, and it can be a really challenging thing and process to go through. So being able to really foster candidates through that and be part of that experience is really, really rewarding for me. I'm also recently married and have a couple of dogs and realized I really love golf. So I'm into those things as of recent. And this is my first time visiting India, and the team has been so welcoming. So again, just so happy to be here.
Well, by the way, we'll talk about more about your trip to India.
Yes. Okay.
That will be exciting to know your experience. So, just for our attendees, we have taken these questions from everyone, which we will be answering together for you to grow more in this industry as a leaders, and what challenges are there and how to overcome them. So, like you already know that Emma is a senior manager here. So she, in her journey so far, 11 years journey so far,
Yes.
she might have experienced lot many things in her career, which will be helping us and guiding
Yes.
through cutting our roots to the success.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, in your overall journey so far, what all challenges you have faced till date?
Oh man, that's a big question. So I'll share a little bit about my journey and then also talk about where the challenges kind of fit into there. So I'm like a lot of people in recruiting. I never really thought about recruiting. Nobody really goes to college and thinks like I'm going to be a recruiter one day, or maybe some people do, but I didn't. And ended up getting somebody recruited me to go work at a staffing agency shortly after graduation. I did staffing agency for a year and I really didn't like that part of it. So I ended up moving in-house and started recruiting recruiters. And each of these roles, I was like, am I gonna do this? Am I gonna be good at this? I'm not sure, but I'll just go for it and we'll see. And so I went for it. And then I moved to an in-house recruiter at the company. It was called Vista Staffing Solutions. Again, was really nervous, didn't know if I was going to be successful, went for the plunge and really liked it. Shortly after doing that, though, I realized I wanted to get into tech. It was like the hot new thing. Everybody was in tech. And so I started putting my feelers out and I found this company, Entrata, that was right up the road from where I lived in Utah. Submitted my application and had to be really scrappy with how I got in. Entrata was a really tough company to get into. And so I was really creative with my cover letter, wanted to make myself stand out there. Went to some of my people in my network to help me with my resume, and just did like these little things to gather coaching from people around me to make myself successful and marketable to this new company. So I ended up going there. So that's one of the challenges that I think everybody faces when you're looking for a new role. You want to stand out, you want to figure out how you're going to be able to, make a good impression without having the ability to actually talk to someone. So that was one of them. Then I get to Entrata, again, same feeling. Am I going to be good at this? Had a really great mentor and leader, and she was able to like really teach me and help me learn the nuances of recruiting within technology. So I did that for a minute and then really was hungry to learn for another role and was recruited to a company called Adobe. You guys may know. And during that interview process, I will never forget. I was interviewing with a gentleman and he asked me, "What are you most afraid of for this role?" And I sat there for a second and I was like, I'm honestly just most afraid I'm going to fail because the type of role they were asking me to recruit, I had never recruited before. I was going to be alongside some of the best recruiters in the biz. And he sat there, and this will probably never happen to me again in my career, but he looked at me and he said, "Because that is your fear, I think you're going to make a great hire." And I ended up getting the job. And so it was a moment of vulnerability of being like, you know what? I don't have to pretend like I know everything. I can be vulnerable and be honest with myself that I don't know everything and that this is scary, but put myself out there and again, take a step towards something that was uncomfortable. So I ended up going to Adobe. I worked there for about a year. There were some wonderful things about the organization, but honestly, I missed Entrata. The grass wasn't greener, so I ended up coming back to Entrata about a year later. And again, found myself in a position, I mean, that was comfortable. That wasn't a huge step because I had been doing that, but found myself in a position to move into a management position. And I think this is where it gets really important for everyone. Managing can be super scary. And I bet you have experience with this as well. Divyani has a team too. Because you're no longer just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for a whole cohort of people. And it changes your perspective from being able to close your laptop at the end of the day and walk out and like off your shoulder, to now you're carrying home, like, is my team okay? Are they happy? Are they satisfied? And it just brings on a whole slew of things. So it was yet another step in a territory of like complete fear and like, am I gonna let people down in a whole new way? And I'll just say that each time that I kind of stepped into these different roles where I didn't know if I was going to be successful, I didn't know if I was going to, fail. The best thing you can do, a little bit of failure or fear of failure is actually pretty healthy because it drives you to be successful. It drives you to not mess it up, right? And so I think that's what's really led me to this point today of moving into this role as a manager of a senior manager of talent acquisition at Entrata.
Okay, like you said, that you were associated with Entrata, then you left to Adobe, and then you came back
Yeah.
to Entrata. So, would you like to share what Entrata is actually? What does Entrata do? So, for our attendees.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love to tell you. So, Entrata is a property management software solution. I always like to say if you're like driving downtown or driving through a town and you see like a high-rise apartment building, everything about that building functions on our software. Everything about that facility will work on our software, from resident management, making sure they can make rent payments online, making sure they can, request maintenance and things like that. Over to our property managers, they can, facilitate all their residents living there, make sure they can do their accounting and financing and things like that. And then also other workers, like for maintenance workers, for example, they can open and close their tickets through our software. And it's, a whole variety of other things. We started in 2003 with the great idea to make rent payments online, which seems crazy. In 2003, we weren't doing that. And our clients really loved us. So we continued to grow. We continued to build products that were able to support them. And continue today to be one of the leading softwares in multifamily property management because we're easy to use and convenience typically wins in this market. So we continue to provide a really convenient, great software, and it's a very product-based company. So anyone who joins the organization can really feel a sense of accomplishment that their work influences somebody living in their apartment complex and influences the way a property manager can run that property. So yeah, that's a little bit about kind of what we do. And it's an exciting time to join. We recently accepted our first round of funding. Actually, not recently. We're coming up on a year, last July, for $507 million. And we're seeing a lot of that get kind of pumped back into the business in a very specific way into bringing in best-in-class talent. I say this all the time. Software companies are only as good as the people who build and support the software. And our executive team definitely feels that as well. And so we're in a unique position where we get to bring in that best-in-class talent.
That's quite insightful.
Yes.
To know. So we'll be now focusing more about the women leadership role. So since you yourself are into a leadership role, so what do you think, what qualities made you to reach at this point of your career?
That's a good question. There's a couple qualities that are top of mind. One is I don't know exactly how I want to say this, but just an openness to learn and an understanding that there's always more to learn. As soon as you start to feel like, oh, I know how to do this, I got that, I don't need you to teach me, is the second that you're limiting your growth. And so I always kept an open mind that okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to learn it. And I'm going to learn it from the people around me, and I'm going to surround myself with the right people to be successful here. Surrounding yourself with the right people is really key to success. I would say another thing that's really important for me that I've learned is the relationships you build are really critical to your success and ability to grow. I will never forget this discussion. It was before I accepted being a manager. I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it, and I didn't know if I was really qualified. I don't know why as women, we're the quick to discount ourselves before somebody else has. So I was speaking with this leader that I really respected and trusted. And I told him I wasn't very sure that I wanted to do this job. Like, I don't know, we can probably find someone better and they'll be better for the team. And like, I don't want to let anyone down. And this leader sat me down in his office, like, got up from his desk and came and sat down next to me and was like, Emma, you've been given this opportunity. You're in the seat. You're going to do it. And we're going to make sure that you do it successfully. And like, we're here. We got you. And that is like truly a moment. I'll never forget that moment. First of all, it was the reason I accepted the position and decided to like really take the next step forward in my career. But second of all, like having that relationship with somebody at that level that can help me find that confidence in myself that sometimes I think as women, like we kind of like put on the back burner and we forget. And I know we're going to talk about confidence later too, but I think that that was one of the things that was so important to me is like building relationships and building. I always say like I'm the CEO of my life and like I build my own personal executive team around me. So being really thoughtful about who that executive team is and creating those relationships within the four walls of your office.
Great. So, on that point itself, like you said, maintaining a good relationship with everyone and getting a positive people around you is the key where you can success. But that cannot be always possible. So there might be instances where a negativity will be around you, where the relationship that you have is not always be good with everyone. So that how do you face those negativity and any such kind of struggle you have faced in your career so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, so I think when it comes to like people that are difficult to work with, which there's always people that are difficult to work with that you may find in your career, um, approach those people with a very open mind. I had a friend once tell me, if you understood their story, you wouldn't feel the way that you're feeling. So if we can just take a moment to put ourselves in their shoes, and I don't mean like, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but like really put yourself in their shoes and understand why they might be frustrated or not agreeable with you and things like that. Um, and then create some space to talk, like create some safe space to be like, hey, I can't help but feel like this relationship is like we've got some friction here. Ultimately, I want us to work well together, and so having the courage to like go have those conversations. Um, the best people that I've had in my career are the ones, and the ones that I'm like, even as I build my team, like the type of people I look for are people that are like willing to have a conversation and have an open mind to consider different sides and different perspectives on things. And so I really take that approach into my work and my experience as a leader is just like be really open and be curious. Like always be curious. Your curiosity can like really get you out of some sticky situations.
Definitely. Like, we cannot always be on the same page, but at least the least what we can do is respect each other's perspective on the topics.
Exactly. Yes.
So we have this another question came up, that why it is important for women to be in technology. That's a very deep question.
Yes.
And very vast question to cover up, but still in your way that why women are required in technology.
Yes. I just want to start by saying you're all required. We all need to be in technology. There's a lot of angles to this question, and I'd actually be curious what you would have to say on this too. But one of the things that I would add on why it's so important is mainly for like the diversity of perspective and the diversity of experience that women have by nature of how we're raised, by nature of how we're treated in society. It brings a different it brings a difference to the table that sometimes men don't have, right? And this is why diversity in general is really important, whether it's men, women, race, religion, background, any of that. Being able to bring yourself to work that way is really what drives innovation in a lot of cases. And making sure that we have those different perspectives on the table, and so that we're thinking fully on how we can build our next product or run the next process. Another thing that is really, I think, is really important to note here as well. I remember I was at a conference. It was a LinkedIn conference, and there was a woman there. I think she was from a magazine, and now I'm forgetting what magazine she was from. But she was talking about diversity, and she mentioned that every person needs an example of excellence. And as a woman, if we can't point to somebody on like an executive leadership team or as a leader in our department or something like that and say like, oh, like she's like me, I can be like that, then a lot of times we don't create space in our head to think we can get there. And so I think if we can have women all throughout the business, anywhere, where new people coming into the business, new grads come in, and they're like, oh, there's a director of engineering that's a female. I can get there too because she's gotten there. Or there's a CTO that's a female. Like I can get there too because she's gotten there. And being able to see that people have done it and you can do it too, really, I think kind of drives that ability to like kind of grow. I know that's how it's been for me. I mean, I've been pretty lucky. I've had mostly female leaders in my career. And so being able to see that like, oh, they got there and learning from them and understanding their journey and like understanding their struggles of how, what it took for them to get there, just helps kind of pave the way for the next generation. And like, we need more generations of women in the workplace, and so having them now is so important because it's showing the younger generations that like you can get there too.
Yes, the similar experience actually I also have. So before joining Entrata, I was in a company where I didn't see much of the female leaders. So when I joined in Entrata, I saw these couple of women who were leaders, who were actually at the director level. So that was quite fascinating for me to see. Okay, oh, out of all these men, okay, there are female as well as a leader. So that actually encouraged me more that okay, I can be here at Entrata and I can reach up to the leadership level where I couldn't imagine myself earlier. I didn't think before as like I could reach at the leadership level because I didn't see that culture.
Right.
But as soon as I entered Entrata, the first thing I saw on our website itself, there was a female leader mentioned at director level.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh, there are women as a
Yes.
leaders. Okay, this can happen. This is possible. So yes, that journey, that instances like gave me more confidence that okay, if they can be there, I can be there too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that it's crazy. Like you don't realize how much weight that carries. Just being able to see that somebody is where you want to be one day, and it gives a lot of like, like confidence and drive to raise your hand and like, yeah, maybe I will go for that job. Like she got there, maybe I can too.
So I didn't have the perspective before, okay, that I can be there.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the example, okay, that didn't strike my mind before until I see this, like until I saw this thing, that didn't strike my head even. So a lot like this is me. So there can be many other women out there who didn't think that they can lead somewhere in the team.
Mhm.
So again, this is for everyone that we can lead anywhere and
Yeah.
anything we can be like we can excel in this leadership role. It's just that we need to have that kind of confidence in us.
That's exactly right. And I think it's worth mentioning too, like as women look, like the women that are here, like as you look for new opportunities, like seek out organizations that prioritize bringing women into the organization, that see it as a focus, because then you know that there is an area of inclusion, there is drive to promote you and like find opportunities for you, and that is something you can control like while you're looking for new roles.
This actually gives me one more question to that. See, as we have not seen many women in the leadership role, so how can we encourage women to get into the leadership role and encourage more to come up and see themselves on that level where they can succeed? How we can do that?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm saying that about all your questions. You got great questions. I pause because I've been there. I didn't know if I wanted to move into that next role. I was really resistant. And it wasn't until I actually had a male mentor, and I hate to say that, but it's true, had a male mentor be like, no, you got this. Like, you're going to do it. You're going to be great at it. And I'm like, okay. And I was just like hyped. And then I went and accepted the position. And like 2 days later, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But I do think, like, I know I keep going back to this, but you just have to take that step forward. You have to be uncomfortable. If you are comfortable in your career, that means you've probably like maxed out, not maxed out, but like maxed out your ability to kind of grow in your current role. And I think that, kind of moving yourselves towards that next step of being uncomfortable is really what, will kind of elevate you. I also like to say, typically, women or anyone that's like, I don't know if I want to be a leader, I'm not sure if I should do it, is probably exactly who should be the leader, because they're the ones that are going to lead with a lot of empathy. They're the ones that are going to lead their teams to success and be really, clear with them, and have a little bit of that fear of failure to make sure that, I want to take care of, everyone and make sure that we have clear goals, clear direction, and that I can lift these people up. So I think that that's, yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'd go with that. It is scary, but you do just kind of have to take that leap of faith. And the worst case scenario, if you raise your hand the next time a leadership role is open, you interview, the worst thing that's going to happen is they say no. The best thing that's happened is they could say yes. So there isn't too much that's really on the line in cases like that. But believe in yourself, let yourself go after something maybe you're a little uncomfortable with, and just see where it lands you.
So yes, like you said, right, that there are so many challenges in this line. So how do we motivate ourselves? Like we do have people online, we can check, ask them their experiences, that how do they motivate themselves to come to work.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Everyone online, pop in what you do to keep yourself motivated to come into work every day. I'm gonna flip this back on you too in just a second. So I always, or I would refer back to like intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. So like, intrinsic, like very personally what drives me, and extrinsically, what do I want outside of that. Motivation is very personal, which is part of the reason we're asking you guys to throw some of those in there. But for me, find those things that really drive you. I love the people that I work with. That's why I go to work every day. That's why I do what I do. I love the candidates I get to work with. I am so fortunate with the leadership we have at Entrata. They are phenomenal. And so that's intrinsically what I really, what motivates me and what keeps me kind of doing this. Extrinsically, I want to support my family. I have a life that I want to, kind of keep up with. And so I come to work because that's what I want extrinsically. But those are the two things that I would say are like, my main motivators for coming in every day. I did talk a little bit about talent acquisition and why I love what I do. And I think that that plays a big part in it. If you can find something that you love to do, work isn't work anymore. And so it's really important that, be specific, be focused, like really think about what you want to do with your career and then just go after it.
That's quite insightful again.
Yeah.
So do we have any from the attendees who want to share that what motivates them to work? Yeah, you can unmute yourself
Yes.
and you can share your experience, your thought and opinion about it.
Yes, for me, hi, this is Pallavi Mudliar, and I'm serving as an engineering manager here at Entrata India since last 2 months. Earlier, I have been in leadership role since past 2 years. So for me, what drives me the most is getting new knowledge, achieving new things, and whenever my team achieves something, then that satisfaction is what's the greatest happiness for me at any point of time. So getting bored of the routine knowledge, we have something exciting at office every day. So that's what turns me into getting to office.
Great.
I love that. Learning is definitely a good motivator too, making sure you're continuing to stretch yourself. New challenges as well. Yes, that's definitely a good motivator.
So we have Shalini here with us.
Hi, I'm Shalini Singh, and I have been in technology for last 14 plus years. And I think I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to continue, and I have a lot of different roles and opportunities, different technical things which I got to pick. That's really correct. Every time you're very you're nervous, you don't know whether you'll be able to manage it, because uh, in the technical world, there are a lot of male colleagues who are doing excellent. But then when you get into it, you realize that you know equally, and it's nothing to be afraid. It just you have to get into it, and you need to get started. But the other thing, it may be funny for few people, the financial independence my job gives me. I know, wherever I can make my own financial decisions. Because when initially 3 4 years when I joined my, started my work, I wasn't sure if I want to continue. I always want to get married and get settled and be at home, to be honest. But then I realized during the journey, the kind of financial independence it gives to us is is very, what do you say, addictive.
Yeah.
So the addiction, I think, that followed, and I'm 14 plus years. I'm working, and I'm working successfully, and I'm proud of my journey. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Shalini, and thank you, all the attendees. So, yes, about me, yes, the independent thing is the major reason that drives me to work. So, as that feeling of being independent, not only financially, but taking decision, that it gives you a sense that, okay, you are something. It's not just home, it's not just the other life, but you have your own life. It gives you your life apart that what the social life you have. You get sense of that individuality, you learn something every day for sure, and you get motive in your life. It gives you immense, like, extensive motive in your life, that what you want to do, what you are, what's the reason of your existence. It answers all those questions.
Yeah. Oh, I love all of that. I think Brene Brown is one of my all-time favorite people, if you guys have ever heard of her. And she talks about the people who are the happiest through some, I don't remember which research it was, but some of the happiest people are the people with like slash titles. So it's not just like one title. It's not just mother. It's not just homemaker. It's not just recruiter even, right? But it's like the people that have like dual interests and dual titles in their life. They have multiple things that they identify with. So I love that. Yeah, independence is a really great part of being a working woman.
Absolutely. So this another question is one of my favorite. Okay. So we have this person asking this question.
Okay.
I believe we have come a long way to empower women in tech, but there is one issue that has been constant at all times. Males reacting to the fact that their reporting manager is a female. What do you think we can do about this issue? The males overreacting that they have to report to a female.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I am in a position where I am a leader, and I actually have 2 male managers that report to me. When I had my first male manager hired that was going to be reporting to me, I kind of went back and forth. I wasn't sure if, like, should I say something? Should I not say something? Should I just assume they're cool with it? Like, I don't know. And I ended up relying back on one of my qualities that I think has set me up to get to where I am today, which is being curious. So actually the very first one-on-one that I had with this person, and as a female manager, hopefully you're having one-on-ones with all of your team, but the very first one-on-one that I had with this person actually had nothing to do with work and everything to do with, differences, culture, and part of it was the discussion of how do you feel reporting to a female? Do you have concerns with that? Do you have any problems with that? Is that frustrating to you or anything along those lines, right? And I think by just acknowledging those things directly creates a space, first of all, that breaks people down and they're like, oh, you're gonna ask me about this? Okay. Yeah, I guess I feel weird about it. Or what are they gonna say, right? They can have a variety of different, responses to that. But I think just creating this space of discussion and kind of getting it out of the way of do you have any issues with this? Are you frustrated about this? Do you have concerns? In my case, in my personal example, it ended up being a really healthy discussion. We were able to lay a lot out on the table. And this person is, totally fine with it, right? And I understand more of where he was coming from now, and he understands where I'm coming from. The reality is we are all working for this company. Our job responsibilities just look a little bit different. So at the end of the day, it's just understanding I'm in this role because of X, Y, and Z, and you're in your role because of X, Y, and Z. And so let's come up with the best way to have the best working relationship, because at the end of the day, we want a world-class recruiting team that brings in the best talent in the business. So thankfully enough, we didn't really have too much friction in our conversation, but I do think that this is something that is a really unique problem, and issues like this, they shouldn't be danced around. They should be handled directly and in a very direct conversation. And even if you feel like maybe that conversation directly with them isn't effective, bring another person into the room and help gain some other perspectives on why it may be seen that way. But this is kind of the direction that we're moving in, and there will be cases where women are leading men, and so we need to learn to evolve with that.
So the key is being direct about it.
Yes.
Be open about it. Be communicative about it.
Yes. And be curious.
Curious.
Be curious. Understand. Back to that thing too. If you understood their story, you may not feel the way you feel. And so just try to understand their story. Understand where they're coming from.
Trying each other to fit yourself in each other's shoes and respecting the perspective of each other.
Yes. Yes. Well, good question.
Thank you for this question, whoever has shared. So again, related to this male team members only. So how do you think the male team members can help us in terms of bringing more women in the technology and more women to the leadership role? What contribution we can expect from our male team members?
Yes. Male team members are so important to this equation. I can't say that enough. They're the counteract, right? So in rooms that maybe women aren't feeling very welcomed in, or tables that we're not feeling like our voices are heard at, finding mentors or men within the business that you have that trust with, that you have that relationship with, that can advocate for you as well, is really important. And I use the same example of, so the example I used earlier was our CTO, JT, who was the one that was like, you're in the role, you're gonna do it, right? He also has been a huge mentor for me, and somebody that's helped me grow up in my career by explaining his experience working with me with other leaders, and making sure that that positive feedback is going throughout the business, not just between the two of us. And so I think finding for the men, what's important for them is that they are finding opportunities to elevate the women that are within the business. By understanding we may have it a little bit harder, we have to work a little harder to make sure that our work is seen, and we have to be a little louder at tables so we don't get talked over. And so having those men as mentors and ones that you trust are really has been critical to the success of my career and critical to me getting to this point. I've had a lot of wonderful female mentors before as well, but I would say, and they've helped me understand truly like some of the challenges we run into, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna run into this, but I would do this, right? But some of the male mentors I've had are like, despite that, like, let's get you here, and so they bring a different perspective. So yeah, I would say that's one of the ways that men can really help women in the workplace and areas that I've experienced kind of having that help and mentorship.
So they can be, it can be both the ways that if there are positive men around you encouraging you, there will be a negative one as well.
Yes.
So what to do about those?
Run away, just kidding. What to do about the ones that are negative? I'm trying to think how I would answer this, because we don't have a lot of space for those types of egos at Entrata. So we don't see too many of them. But I would say, like, one of the things, I mean, here's the thing. It sucks. We don't like it. We don't want to deal with it. You have to learn to, like, kind of brush those things off and understand that, like, you know what? I don't have the best interaction with you, but I'm going to be professional about it, and I'm going to be the bigger person, and I'm going to choose not to acknowledge, what you've said or how you've treated me. One thing I will say, though, that we can do, because a lot of times men don't realize what they've done, is be forward on that. And I've had a specific experience where I had a male colleague that would talk over me all of the time. And I finally pulled him aside and I was like, listen, I know I can be a little quiet. Sometimes I can be long-winded. You may not want to listen to me, but can you please not talk over me when I've started speaking, because it's just really offensive. And he had no idea. I think he did. I think he may have done it to other people too. Like, he may just talk over people, but just also taking, like, understanding sometimes there's a feedback loop that can happen there. And making sure that that's shared. Now, if you share that feedback and they still continue to do that, then I just maybe wouldn't spend too much time with them. But I think that is one thing that you can do, is just try to educate when you can and where you can. I think that's one of the challenges of being a woman in technology, is like there's extra burden for things like that, and like it's annoying, but it is an opportunity for us to practice like feedback, and for us to practice, sharing those things and helping them not do that to the next person. So yeah, that was a twisty answer to where we landed, but yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'd land.
Like, again, to be direct and stand for what is required, and just do your best and let your work speak for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Similar experience actually I had in my earlier career, where there was this colleague of mine who really used to underestimate me, and was discriminating in a way, racist in a way. So yes, what I did at that point of time, I raised my voice in a polite way, not as like, you don't have to always be aggressive to put up your point. You politely explain your point, where you stand, what you think, and which is not right. Until unless you point out and you give your feedback, what you said, that feedback is really important. Till then, nobody's going to care, nobody's going to listen, and they're going to do the repetitive mistakes what they're doing from ages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you have to be direct and stand for yourself in polite way.
In a polite way.
In a polite way. So this next question what we have is the question I think everyone might be having. So how do we balance our work life and our personal life? How do we create this work-life balance as a woman in technology?
As a woman in technology, as a woman in work, to be honest, yes. Yes. So I first just want to acknowledge work-life balance is different for everyone. Some people have families, some people are married, some people are single with friends, and work-life balance is equally as important in all of those scenarios, but may look a little different. So the way that I would respond to this is like boundaries are critical, and being present is critical to managing the work-life balance. When I first started working at Adobe, I'm going to refer back to this one for a minute. It was my first time working at a global company, and boundaries can get crossed really quickly in a global company because they're working around the clock; it never ends. And I had people on my team like kind of share with me like, hey, you're gonna want to set these boundaries pretty quickly, or else people are gonna take advantage of them. And so I made it a point. I started noticing like kind of my team and what they would do, and they were available like till like 10, 11 o'clock at night when the expectation was set that it was 8 to 5. And so I ended up, for us, we had Slack, so I turned my Slack off at 5:30, and I didn't respond to anything between 5:30 and the next day. And I realized at that point in my career, I was like pretty junior, so I had the ability to do that. As a leader, that's changed. But at that point, I learned the lesson of if I make it clear that I'm unavailable between this time and this time, then unless it's absolutely urgent, which I'd be getting like a text if it was that case, my team knows that it will wait, but they also know it's gonna get done the next day. And they know or acknowledge the next day and responded to. So that was one area that I found work-life balance to be really critical, was just finding the boundaries that worked for me. And at that point in my life, it was 5:30 at night, which was beautiful. And really sticking with them and making it clear to other people that like, you can't expect me in these times, but you can expect me here, and I will respond, and I'll be prompt, and I'll be urgent, and I'll get the job done during these hours. As a leader, that boundary has shifted, especially now that we are a global company again, and we're working on like around the clock all over again.
Different time zones.
Very different time zones, but making sure that like we're working with each other. I know we've talked a little bit about what I've learned in my trip to India is just like understanding that like we're totally opposite, but you have priorities in your life that are really important to you. And so now that I understand that, I don't want to schedule meetings with you during that time. Like I want you to be with your family. But I had no idea before, right? And maybe that was part of my lack of curiosity in those moments. But understanding that like people have different things that matter a lot to them, and like we as a business and as a leader need to be respectful of our team's times. And I feel that respect from my leadership. I've been very clear on when they can and can't expect me. But if it's urgent, here's the route to get to me. And I think that those things are important. That being said, time when I get home can be hard too, because there are like looming things over here that you want to take care of. And so I've made it a point to just be really present, and also set the expectation. For me, it's with my spouse that between these hours, we're gonna make dinner together after work. We're gonna, hang out and watch our favorite show for an hour, and then I may have to log back on. But like this weekend, we're gonna go do something great, right? Like we've got our weekends. So I think just like kind of planning for it as much as possible. I'll be honest, the lines get blurred sometimes, and there are some weeks that are really busy. Maybe you have a project or a deadline or something coming up, and like you just have to work with those weeks. It's not always like super clear, but setting those expectations for yourself so you know when you are supposed to be at work and when you can step away from it, and so your colleagues know the same and your leadership knows the same, has been, I think, is, regardless of your situation, is going to be one of the most critical points.
Setting expectation for everyone.
Yeah.
So irrespective the leaders are male or female, setting up the expectation and respecting. Unavailability doesn't mean incapability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're not available at that point of hour, doesn't mean you're incapable to do any work.
Yeah.
So if you're not able to do that at this hour, you can communicate with your manager, okay, at this point of time, I have this liability, I have this priority, but I can take this up at some other hour.
Yes.
And both the parties, like all the managers and you yourself, understand and respect that time. So that actually needs to be educated more among everyone.
Yeah. Can we trademark that from Divyani? Unavailability does not mean incapability. I love
That
that.
was impromptu. Okay.
That was good. That was really good. But I think that's exactly right. You hit something really important, which is like, it doesn't mean I can't do the job and that I'm not capable. It means that you hired me and I also have a life. I have these things out here that matter a lot. And going back to your employer, like find an employer that respects that.
Absolutely. So everyone might not be that lucky to get that kind of employer, but at least you can try and educate them.
Yes.
Everything is every time the things might not be in your hands, but at least you can try.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So I know this topic is vast, but I would like to know your perspective over that. What do you think women empowerment is?
What is women empowerment? Women empowerment to me, I wish I could come up with some like really brilliant answer here, but like women empowerment is speaking the names of women at tables they don't get to sit at. And that can be men, that can be women. I know there's, like, I feel very empowered by both the men and the women I've had the privilege of working with. But to me, like, not everybody has the same opportunity, especially with women. That's why we're here, right? And I think that if we can learn about our female colleagues, if we can understand, you know, what they do well and what opportunities they should be given, that maybe they're just not being handed over to them, then like I need to use my opportunity of, you know, being able to work with leadership so closely to say like, hey, Divyani's really awesome at this. We should tap her on the shoulder for this project because of X, Y, and Z, right? And so I think to me, women empowerment is just like finding those opportunities for the women that you work with and lifting them up.
Okay. Fine. I mean, again, that's a very vast topic we cannot cover.
Is there anything you would add to that?
Oh, yes. So empowerment to me is where you have rights to speak up without being judged, without being taken for granted, and you have those rights. We'll not talk about the equality of male and female. It's just about you yourself standing up, and nobody is taking you for granted when you speak up. They do take you seriously. So that's what women empowerment for me will be.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. I want to add one other thing to this too, and maybe this is like one of the challenges with being a woman in tech, is like you just have to be really freaking good at your job too. There's no room for like kind of being okay at it and being a woman. Like you have to be excellent at it.
Absolutely.
And like build that credibility for yourself. And so I think, yes, like that the ability to be taken seriously a lot of times does come from like just having that credibility of like being exceptional at what you do.
I need to have that in my right.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we have last few minutes left. So I'll not take much of it. This might be the last question.
Okay.
How someone can switch from non-technical to technical?
Yes. So first I want to just say like a lot of the same roles that are in non-technical companies also exist in tech companies. Support roles, customer success roles, implementation roles, and things like that. So first I would define what that means. When you say switching from tech to non-tech, is that, you know, getting into a technical role, or is that just getting into the tech industry? Because that may be different. But either way, be focused about what it is that you want to do, and really define that. If it is a technical role, let's say you want to be an engineer, then take the next step of like, okay, I need certification, I need schooling. So where am I going to get that? And do the research, right? And find, you know, how you want to get in there. I also recommend, whether it is technical or a non-technical role you're trying to get into, get on LinkedIn, find somebody that's doing the role you want to be doing today, connect with them and be like, hey, can I take you to coffee? I'd like to I'd like to learn about your career path. Kind of going back to what we talked about way earlier in this discussion of there should be women in the workplace so other women can see them and kind of grow into that. Take that same approach and like find people online that have the job that you want and learn from them. And then take action. The craziest part about all of this is like you have to do something about it. So whether it is going online and connecting with somebody and learning about it and seeing if maybe they'd refer you to the company, or taking the plunge to get the schooling, like enroll in the classes, like rip off the Band-Aid and sign up. Like the fact that you do that will actually lead you to the next step of taking the class and the next step of graduating, right? And so that first step can be so intimidating and so daunting, but it just takes a minute of courage to just do it, and then you're on a whole new trajectory of life. So yeah, find those people, connect with them, make a game plan and kind of go from there. Is there anything you'd add to that?
Yes, I have a quick story to share about it. So, this one of my sister-in-law. She is having a 17-year-old kid, okay, who's preparing for like 12th or so. She has been like housewife for all her life, but in this during this COVID period, in this lockdown, she took classes, and she has now entered into a development sector. She is now a software engineer, though she had to start from the scratch. But it takes that plunge, being a housewife for like 18 years, and then you are starting your career. Then it takes a different kind of motivation for you to have that zeal, that you push yourself to learn, and somebody is not like pushing you, you yourself driving yourself to learn. And so in this COVID time, she did this course of coding, and now she is a software engineer.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's so inspirational. But yeah, she took the plunge. She just did it, right?
Yes, that's
Really
more
important.
important. So I think we have very less time. I think we tried covering.
We covered a lot.
But yes. So anybody have any question for us from our attendees? What do you like the most about being in the profession of tech recruiting?
Ooh, what do I like the most about it? Tech recruiting is, so we cover all recruiting, tech recruiting, non-tech recruiting, all within the tech sector, right? What's so exciting about this is, first of all, tech culture is really fun. There's like a constant urge of like learning and innovating and pushing ourselves to be like the very best. That's contagious and really exciting to be a part of. In terms of like the actual recruiting side of it, we get to work with really brilliant people and work with candidates that are like excited about the next like phase in their career. I'm a big proponent of just like the candidate experience, and I think within tech, like we have a lot of tools and systems and things that we can do to like really set ourselves apart that way. So those are some of the things that I really enjoy about it, is just like kind of fostering those connections. And I'm sure you can agree with this, like the best thing ever is when you hire someone, they come into the business, and then you see them promote and grow in their career, and you're like, I brought you here. Yeah. So that's some of the things that I think like really stand out to me, but there's a lot to love about recruiting. It's a great place to be.
Absolutely. So quickly, wrapping up the session, you all will be getting the feedback forms. And you will be getting a recording of this session as well. Please feel free to give your valuable feedback. So your feedback will actually help us more in terms of improving our more sessions and the way we can grow and like help as many women in technology as much we can. So the links you will be getting soon. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emma, for taking out your precious time and like talking with the team. So thank you, and thank you, everyone online.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.